Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, wondering if all the sacrifices you made for your kids were truly appreciated? Maybe you paid their bills when they were struggling, helped raise the grandkids, or even stayed silent through disrespect because you didn't want to rock the boat. If you've ever felt like you gave so much, but somehow lost their respect in the process, you're not alone. Many loving, devoted parents in their 60s, 70s, and beyond find themselves in a strange place. They've spent decades being everything to their children: provider, protector, cheerleader, fixer. And now they're left wondering why the connection feels one-sided, why they're often treated like a backup plan instead of a respected elder. But here's something important. Respect isn't about how much you give. It's about what you allow. It's about boundaries, dignity, and teaching others how to treat you. And sometimes, the very things we do out of love can quietly erode the foundation of respect our children should naturally feel toward us. So today, let's have a real conversation. Not about blaming ourselves or our children, but about recognizing the patterns that steal respect and learning how to shift them. Because it's never too late to rebuild healthy, loving relationships that honor who you are. Let's begin with the first thing many parents do out of love, but that often backfires quietly and painfully. It starts when we try to solve every problem for our adult kids. Maybe they lost a job, and we step in to cover their rent. Or they made a mess of their finances, and we quietly drain our savings to help them get back on their feet. It feels like love, and it is. But when this becomes a habit, when we're constantly rescuing them from the consequences of their choices, we're not helping. We're enabling. See, there's a hidden message in overhelping. What we're really saying is, I don't think you can handle this on your own. And whether we mean it or not, our kids feel that. It can breed resentment, guilt, or even worse, a kind of entitlement. They start to expect your help. They stop seeing you as someone to admire and start seeing you as a safety net they don't even thank anymore. But here's the powerful truth. It's okay to say no. In fact, saying no, lovingly, clearly, without guilt, is one of the strongest forms of love there is. Because it gives your children the chance to rise, to grow, to take ownership of their lives. You don't need to fund their poor choices to prove you care. You've already raised them. You've already sacrificed. Now your job isn't to fix their lives. It's to honor your own. Maybe that sounds harsh, but I promise you, there's something deeply liberating in trusting that your child is capable. Even if they're 30, 40, or 50 years old and still struggling, that struggle might be exactly what helps them stand on their own 2 feet. And sometimes the best thing we can do as parents is to step back. Now let's talk about something that's a little harder to admit, but just as important. Have you ever silenced yourself to keep the peace? Bit your tongue when your child was being disrespectful? Smiled through comments that hurt your feelings because you didn't want to upset them? If you have, I want you to know that you're not weak. You're just trying to keep the love alive. But the cost of constant silence is enormous. Every time we let our kids cross a line without saying anything, we slowly teach them that it's okay. We teach them that our feelings don't matter, that we'll keep showing up no matter how they behave. And over time, they stop seeing us as someone to respect and start seeing us as someone who will accept anything. Let me be clear. Kindness is not weakness. You can be gentle and firm at the same time. You can speak up with love and still demand to be treated with dignity. And the more you honor your voice, the more others will too. Sometimes it's as simple as saying, I don't like the way that sounded. Or, I love you, but I won't allow that kind of talk in my home. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be consistent. You may be surprised by how quickly your kids adjust when you start standing your ground. At first, they might push back. They may get upset or act like you're being unfair. But that's okay. You're not raising children anymore. You're teaching adults how to respect another adult. You. And the best part? The moment you begin standing in your worth, you stop feeling resentful. You stop replaying conversations in your head. You start feeling lighter. Because your boundaries become your peace. The truth is, most of us were never taught how to do this. We were raised to be good parents, to put ourselves last, to keep giving even when our tank is empty. But your later years are not meant to be a slow fade into invisibility. They are meant to be a celebration of your wisdom, your voice, and your presence. So if you've ever felt like your children don't see your value anymore, don't wait for them to wake up. Start showing them how valuable you are by how you treat yourself. You are not here to be their fixer. You are not here to be their emotional sponge. You are not here to be walked on in the name of love. You are here to live with dignity and to enjoy the years you've worked so hard for. And when you live that way, clear, strong, kind, but unapologetic, you don't just gain respect from your children, you gain it from yourself. There's a quiet moment that hits many parents after 60. You've done everything you could for your kids, loved them, guided them, supported them through thick and thin. And yet, there's this subtle shift. Maybe they don't call as often. Maybe they interrupt you, correct you, talk to you like they know better. And deep down, it hurts. Not because you need their approval, but because you want their respect. But respect doesn't come from years served. It comes from presence, from boundaries, from refusing to play roles that no longer serve you. And one of the roles we must let go of, especially in this season of life, is the role of the guilt-ridden parent. It's so easy to slip into guilt. We look back and remember the times we yelled too much, worked too many hours, missed a recital, or couldn't afford what other parents gave their kids. We carry these memories like scars, and that guilt, if we're not careful, becomes a leash. It holds us back from making strong decisions in the present because we feel like we're still making up for the past. Here's the thing. We all made mistakes as parents. Every single one of us. There is no perfect mom or dad, just human beings doing the best they can with what they had. And your children, now adults, are responsible for how they choose to carry those experiences. That's not your burden to keep dragging behind you. Guilt makes you overcompensate. It makes you say yes when your heart says no. It makes you tolerate behavior you don't deserve, because somewhere inside, you feel like you owe them something, but you don't. You owe them love. You owe them honesty. You owe them your example. But you don't owe them your peace, your money, your silence, or your dignity. Not anymore. When you let go of guilt, something beautiful happens. You begin to show up from a place of strength, not apology. You begin to say, I'm proud of who I've become, and I won't keep punishing myself for the years when I was still learning. Your kids may try to bring up the past. They may throw your mistakes in your face during an argument. But remember, their healing is their responsibility, not your life sentence. You can say, I hear you, and I'm sorry for where I fell short. But I'm not going to live in the past anymore. I'm focused on being the best version of myself today. That is power. That is leadership. And that's the kind of parent adult children begin to respect again. Now let's talk about something that might feel counterintuitive at first. But it's one of the biggest respect builders of all. Stop being available 24/7. It's a hard one, I know. Especially if you're someone who's always been on call for your kids. Maybe you answer every text the second it comes in. Maybe you drop everything when they need something, even if it disrupts your day. Maybe you've canceled plans, skipped your own appointments, or ignored your health because they needed you. And while that kind of love is beautiful, over time, it can lead to a dangerous imbalance. One where your time, your energy, and your presence are taken for granted. Think about this. When someone is always available, always accessible, always saying yes. Do we value their time? Or do we start assuming they'll always be there no matter how we treat them? The truth is, availability without boundaries doesn't build respect. It builds expectation. Now, I'm not saying ignore your children or cut off communication. What I'm saying is this: create space. Let them know that your time is valuable too, that you have a life, that you're not waiting by the phone to be needed. Start by protecting your schedule. If you have a lunch date with a friend, keep it, even if your daughter calls needing a ride. If you're resting, watching your favorite show, or gardening, let the call go to voicemail. You can get back to them when you're free, not when they demand it. It's not about punishing them. It's about teaching them something essential. You matter too. When your kids see that you have a full, rich life, they're reminded that you're not just mom or dad. You're a whole person with dreams, routines, and boundaries. That's what builds respect. Not being at their beck and call, but showing them that you value yourself enough to protect your own space. It also creates something unexpected: desire. When you stop being too available, your presence becomes more meaningful. Your advice lands deeper. Your voice matters more. Because it's not just there to fill silence. It's there with intention. Now here's the final thought I want to leave you with in this moment. You're allowed to have your own life. You are allowed to say, "No, that doesn't work for me." You are allowed to take a trip without checking in. You are allowed to enjoy your peace without feeling selfish. Being a good parent doesn't mean putting your life on hold forever. You've earned your freedom. You've earned the right to be more than just someone's parent. You get to be your own person again. And when you live from that place, not of guilt or fear or over-responsibility, but of quiet confidence and self-respect, something shifts in the way your children treat you, Sayuwan. They start to mirror it. They start to rise. They start to meet you, not from a place of dependency, but from a place of mutual respect. You may not see the change overnight. But the moment you stop doing these things from a place of fear or habit, you start opening the door to a healthier, more honoring relationship with your children and with yourself. There's something deeply powerful about realizing that the most important relationship in your life at this stage might just be the one you have with yourself. And while love for your children will always live in your heart, respect from them must be earned and protected. There's one more thing many of us do, often without even noticing it, and it can quietly chip away at that respect faster than anything else. It's the habit of trying to stay relevant by pretending to be someone we're not. It can start off innocent. Maybe you try to match their slang or interests, or constantly agree with their views just to avoid being labeled out of touch. Maybe you pretend you're okay with things you're really not okay with, just to feel included. Or maybe you shrink your own opinions so they don't roll their eyes, scoff, or correct you. But here's the truth. The moment you start abandoning your voice to fit in with your children's world, you stop being the very person they need most, someone they can look up to. Your children don't need a version of you who tries to be cool, trendy, agreeable, or easy to manage. They need you to be real, to be grounded, to be solid in who you are. There is so much dignity in being unapologetically yourself. You've lived long enough to know what matters and what doesn't. You've weathered heartbreaks, raised families, worked hard, lost, rebuilt, and you don't need to shrink for anyone, not even your kids. One of the biggest gifts you can give your adult children is the gift of authenticity. Not just because it helps them respect you, but because it teaches them how to be true to themselves too. You're not here to impress them. You're here to show them what it looks like to age with strength, with grace, and with courage. To say, this is who I am. This is what I believe. This is how I live. And I am proud of it. And you'd be surprised how often that quiet strength, that unwavering self-respect, becomes the very thing that brings your kids closer. not because you're trying to be like them, but because you remind them of what it means to be someone worth knowing. The truth is, the older you get, the more valuable your presence becomes. Not because of what you can do for your children, but because of who you are. There's something unshakable about a person who knows their worth, who doesn't demand respect, but quietly commands it, who doesn't chase approval, but instead moves through life with quiet assurance and integrity. That's the kind of parent adult children remember. That's the kind of parent they listen to. That's the kind of parent they come back to. Not out of obligation, but out of admiration. So if you've been giving too much, tolerating too much, staying silent too often, or twisting yourself into someone you're not, it's okay to stop. Right now. It's okay to reclaim the version of yourself that once stood tall before life and guilt and worry tried to bend you. Because here's what I know. When you begin to live from that place again, the people in your life begin to adjust. Your kids start to step up. They start to listen more. They begin to approach you not just as a parent, but as a person. And that's when real respect is born. Let me say this clearly, and I hope it lands deep in your heart. You are not here to earn your children's love. You already have it. But their respect. That comes when you respect yourself first. Don't let anyone treat you like a convenience. Don't trade your dignity for closeness. Don't give up your peace for a seat at their table. You bring your own table. You've earned it. If your children love you, they will rise to meet you there. And if they don't, then at least you know you stood in your truth, not in their shadow. You've spent so many years giving love. Now, it's time to receive love that comes with honor, with balance, with mutual care. And that begins the moment you choose it for yourself. So here's what I want you to remember. You are not a bad parent for saying no. You are not selfish for protecting your peace. You are not too old to matter. You are not invisible. You are a force, a foundation, a story worth listening to, a voice worth hearing. If this message spoke to you, if it reminded you of something you already knew deep down, I'd love to hear your story. Share in the comments. Your wins, your struggles, your wisdom. Someone out there might need to hear exactly what you've lived through. And if this video helped you, take a second to like it and subscribe to our channel, Strong Elderly Life, for more real conversations about aging with purpose, strength, and self-respect. Because your best years don't have to be behind you. They can be right here, right now. Here's to living with courage. Here's to being respected. And here's to honoring yourself. At every age, you deserve it.